If you're striving to become the best version of yourself while learning from the experiences of other successful people, this is the podcast for you. Welcome to the Transfromation Chamber.
That was an intentional breath. And welcome to episode 3 of the Transformation Chamber. So this episode I'm super excited about right now. It's going to be a great episode. I'm here with my friend Jaz Porter. And anybody who knows her knows that she is full of wisdom, insight, and information. And then also the ambience is set, right? We got sage burning. Mm-hmm. We got candles lit. Mm-hmm. And I'm drinking my hibiscus tea. No, it's not hibiscus tea. Aveda tea. Mm-hmm. That's your third time telling me that. And I still don't got it. Anyway, so a little bit about Jaz Porter. She is a yoga entrepreneur, a soul coach, and also the owner of Ascend Clothing. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And we also have a co-host here. Venus, your dog is here.
Yes.
So if you guys hear a little barking, just say what's up to Venus.
Yeah.
So we're crashing her spot. So Jaz, first of all, again, thank you again for being on the show. You kind of know a little bit about the Transformation Chamber, but I'll just bring you up to speed since I have you here. You know, the whole idea is just to look at your life and see how you've been able to get to where you are now as this very polarizing figure within the yoga community, the way I see you, and how you've amassed so much influence, particularly here in the city of Houston. But I know you were doing it before you got to Houston. I met you right when you got here from Dallas. So, give us a little bit about your background.
So I was born and raised in the DFW, so born in Fort Worth and then lived in Dallas for majority of the time. And then 2.5 years ago, I moved to Houston. So a little bit of extra background. I have a degree in psychology. That's what I was going to do with my life. I was in a program to get my PhD when I went through this awakening process and totally went to the left.
Yeah. I think you told me about this process before, but can you go into that again? Like you were on a straight and narrow path, knew what you wanted, and then boom.
Yeah, so I knew I was sure about psychology for a long time before I was 18. Like I already knew that was the plan going to college, and I made it through my undergrad, and I worked corporately while I was going through school. Working in a corporate environment changed me so much. And it was really difficult because in my mind, I'm like, I'm only doing this to get through school, pay for school. And then once I'm done, I'm going to do this. And then it just
right back in a corporate environment.
Pretty much. I mean, you know, as a therapist, you have your own business and you can work independently or work with another staff. But I was in sales corporate, and that's a different animal.
That's a different beast.
You know, anything about that, it was really crazy. So just being in an environment that was so passive aggressive and hostile, and you just had to really adapt to the environment to succeed. Mm-hmm. And success was always really important to me, you know, getting the bonuses, outshining as far as sales and performance. And it just was crazy.
How did that affect you internally, emotionally? Like, what was it like coming home every day after working in that type of environment for you specifically?
I had a really, really tough time. There were times where I was at work physically shaking of anger.
Wow.
And it's so interesting because it's so relevant to current trending topics right now, and just like minimizing yourself in an environment to make white people comfortable. And anytime you're direct or you speak up, even if it's in the most professional way, you are insubordinate, you are aggressive, there's retaliation. Whether it's your schedule and what you want it to be, you're not getting that off day, you're not put on these certain leads or whatever. There's just so much. And it was really, really challenging.
Wow. So you went through the corporate experience, which I have my own experience too, and we'll get into that hopefully a little later. And then you say you came to an awakening. What was that process? Can you walk us through that?
It was like a snowball effect. The first thing that opened up my mind was a bottle of lotion, actually. Yeah, I was like, I want more hydration in my product. So I went to Walmart and I looked through these bottles. I'm looking on the back. I'm like, what the hell is it? And I'm seeing words that I can't even pronounce.
Right.
So I started Googling, and then it just turned on a whole snowball. I'm like, what is in this? And then it was what is in everything else I'm using? What is in the food I'm eating? The vegan journey started. And then just spiritual awakening and me reading all these books, it just went off the deep end really fast, really hard.
Okay. And so now you use all these products. Like last time I was here, I had a type of tea. I can't remember the name of it. The name just threw me all the way off.
I think it was from Yogi Organics. We can ask her.
Okay. Yeah. But so now you live this lifestyle 100%. Like you've been vegan for how long now?
4.5 years.
And what's that change been like for you?
I would never go back. The way that I feel as far as like my connection to the earth is different. My vibration is higher. My compassion has expanded as far as removing the superiority complex of being a human. Energy wise, skin, hair, everything is just better.
So for the sake of transformation, do you think this awakening is what allowed you to get from that place of just, into where you are now? Can you talk about the changes that have occurred since then professionally, and how you got to the space of an entrepreneur?
So once I went through this awakening process, I realized that I could not spend another day wasting my life.
Wow.
And, this society, it structures work as a necessity. You go trade hours for dollars. And anyone who knows anything about money, there's a lot of other ways to make money besides you exchanging your time for an hourly amount. That's not something I was taught. My mother is an entrepreneur, but she still exchanges time for dollars only. And my father works for a company and does the same thing. And so I was just like, I'm unhappy here. This is 8 hours of my life that I cannot get back. And I have so much more that I could offer the world besides sitting at this desk filing these papers. And it got to be such an intense feeling that I just did not have a choice. In the job that I was at, I had transferred corporate positions, and that job just was ridiculous. There was a situation that happened with management, and I just blew up the spot. Got human resources involved. I was just like, this is crazy that people have to hide what's going on because they're afraid to be retaliated against at work. And go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's a lot to unpack, and we're going to get into it. That takes a level of boldness, I think I would say, and awareness, right? And I know you're all about self-awareness. What do you think is the difference between you and other people who can't see or maybe feel that, to be able to say, hey, this is not humanly right for the soul, for the spirit?
I think innately, just naturally who I am, I've always pushed the envelope, where there was questioning my mama, like, Mama, this is not the only way to do what you're telling me to do. That's just always been my spirit. 2, I had a side hustle. So I was doing hair on the side. So I wasn't actually scared to lose my job. I'm like, I can make money and I'll be okay if they do fire me. And also understanding how to operate in that environment, because you're so mad at what's going on. Your approach is usually emotional, and I had to be really tactical and professional. And all that I understood about documentation and forming something that makes sense chronologically, I took a couple of months to gain this information. She was breaking the law. This is how bad it was. And I created the file and presented it to human resources, because if you go in there like crying, she pissing me off, that's not going to get you the response. Right. So understanding how to do it and take a breath, take a breather, don't act out of emotion. And a combination of that, I guess. So
help me understand. So one, just to be clear, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is it for do you think is everybody supposed to be an entrepreneur? Or do you, some people, they might hear you say exchanging time for dollars and they're like, well, I'm happy in my job. What's your thought process around that?
I don't think being an entrepreneur is for everyone. And sometimes I hear people say, I don't like people telling me what to do. That's why I want to start my own business. That is not enough. It takes a lot of business savvy, organization, understanding clientele retention, understanding professionalism, understanding, accounting, budgeting, profits, loss. Like, it's you wearing a lot of hats when you get started until you get to a space where you can bring on help, which takes time. I think what's most important is to align yourself with a company that matches with your integrity. You can work for someone, and there are great companies out there to be with. But if you feel like you're literally sacrificing who you are, and people don't even understand the effects of you being somewhere for 8 hours and you cannot be yourself.
Right. Again, that goes back to self-awareness. Some people, and this is a question for you, you said sacrificing who you are. Some people don't know who they are.
Also.
So what is some practical steps that you would give to people to say, hey, you need to go on this journey of self-discovery. Here's where you can start.
So speaking to me being a soul coach, that's some of the work that I do with people, help them find out who they are. And just simple questions, you sitting with yourself, bringing up some sort of topic or situation, unpacking, just feeling words. Because sometimes people just operate and go along to get along, that you don't even think about how you feel and what the request would be if you could change the situation. As far as finding out who you are, I think most importantly, you have to understand that what you do for a living and your purpose is not necessarily the same thing. Your purpose can be a part of your career. Your purpose is just, who you are being intentionally on a day-to-day basis. Mm-hmm. You can be purposeful in a conversation. You can be purposeful in traffic, wherever, but just finding out who are you besides things about you.
Okay.
You're a dad, you're a Black man, you're all these things about you, but who are you as a person? How do you show up?
Is it safe to ask you, who are you?
Wow. Yeah, that's a great question. And I think for me, I can answer it in different ways. The first thing that I am is love. I feel like embodying love, showing it, teaching it, and using it as a tool in different ways is just who I am as a person. That's the light that I feel like I give to the world.
Yeah, no, I say about you, people have to meet you to experience it. But the first time I met you, you came in with an overwhelming sense of peace. And I was like, what is this? How does one harness the energy to be walking peace, right? In a world, especially right now, where the world's so crazy, it's like you carry that energy and you embody it with you. And that's how I know your practice is real and everything that you're doing. Your students, they look up to you, they love you, so the journey to you becoming a yoga instructor, right? A yoga entrepreneur, and even a soul coach. What was that transformation like? What was that timeline like? And how did you get to the point now where it seems like you're so respected, right? I know a lot of yoga instructors, right? So, and not saying that they're not respected, but they just don't have the same pull or draw that you have. You're able to pull people out. People look to you for advice and information. They run to you. So, what is that journey that took you from, okay, I'm tired of corporate America. I know this is not where I'm going to be. I'm starting to become self-aware. I got this lotion that made me question my whole existence, right? So now what's next?
The transition was really abrupt because I had enough. At that point, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And when I made the decision to quit my job, it was like, I'm going for it. This is not like a baby step. Let me slide and see how these waters are. It was like, go. So my yoga journey, my practice started about 6 months to a year before I became an instructor. And it actually started with acro yoga. So acro yoga is partner yoga, acrobatics, and yoga. And it taught me how to trust people. So then I went into a personal practice because I was like, let me see what that can do. And that's what taught me that connection to myself and that awareness and provoked the awakening. And so once all that stuff happened at that job, I was like, after I did that, I felt like I saved the employees there too and showed them you don't have to. But then after the situation was resolved, I was like, I'm still leaving. It's time for me to be done. This is going to keep happening. I'm going to go to a new job where y'all going to get a new manager and we're going to be in the same cycle. I have to go. So I ended up getting connected with a well-respected yoga teacher and yoga teacher trainer, Koya Webb. And I was going to take her teacher training and she ended up postponing it. But I was like, I need to change my life right now. So I'm talking to her about it. She's like, I don't know what it is about you, but I just need to facilitate your experience. Come live with me in LA and I'll teach you privately. And I did not know this woman.
That's dope.
But it just speaks to the power of the energy I was putting out and what I felt, you know, inspiration wise, as far as like going for this. So that happened. And I saved up for this to make sure. I didn't know how I was going to make money. I was like, we just gonna see. I just jumped right in and I built my platform over time. And it's been 2.5 years now that I've been an entrepreneur, which is a very short period of time.
Right.
And a lot of times I've gotten some like heat and some hate about where I am. And
how fast you were able to. Yeah, no, we met. How long have we known each other now? Was it 2 years?
2 years.
Yeah. So I met you almost right when you started your journey. I mean, I move around the city. I'm pretty well connected. And like I say, when I look up, if somebody's talking about yoga, they have to mention your name. Right. So moving on during your entrepreneur journey, what have been some of the things that you found? Because I don't want people, just realistically, I've noticed that there's two type of people, right? There are the people who save up and then quit and become an entrepreneur, and then, or two type of entrepreneurs. They save up, they have a plan, they quit, and then it's the people who's like, yo, I'm done. I'm done, or either I'm fired and I'm not going back. So everybody can't make that transition successfully without their life,
falling apart.
Exactly. So how have you been able to sustain and keep all that together? And what are some of the practical tips or steps that you would give to people who are looking to take that journey?
Well, one thing that was in my favor to do this was that I don't have any children. So I didn't, even if I was going to struggle, it was just going to be me. So if you have children, I definitely think I would advise you to consider saving up a little bit more. I saved to a certain extent, and I was good while I was living in Dallas. But when I transitioned to Houston, I didn't consider that I had to rebuild a new platform here. And that's a part of why you saw the type of ambition that I displayed, because I had no choice. There was fire underneath me, and I just didn't have any time to waste. And that was really, really challenging. That first year was also because I was in a new space, but because I was working so hard to make it happen so much faster, there was so many challenges emotionally.
Yeah, no, I've heard people talk about, some people, when you give yourself so many options and so many people that you can rely on, you never get uncomfortable enough to go and be successful.
Right.
But it sounds like you threw yourself like, yo, this is it. Either sink or swim, I'm not looking back. And then from there, you were able to kind of grow and get to where you are now. And so now you owner of Ascend Clothing, and you put on these mass meditation events. You just hosted one for Black men after the killing of George Floyd and everything that's going on in America. What is it that you hope to transfer over to people by them attending your events? How are you using your skill to advance just the world altogether? I want to say America, but it's not just America. Black people are
everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere, and they also treat it unequally everywhere. And a lot of people don't know that. So how are you using your tool to advance this? But I also know that you have very diverse classrooms too. So can you just kind of speak to what you're doing?
First of all, these are phenomenal questions. You're doing great.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm like, these are great. The thing that I hope to transfer, my intention is to expand people's consciousness and capacity for compassion. So what I do in my yoga classes, one of my most popular classes that I do when I'm headlining festivals and things like that, it's larger crowd, is Tantra yoga. So that pretty much brings everybody into a collective experience. So you're having one unified experience on your mat instead of a bunch of individual experiences. And tapping them into that kind of consciousness through guided meditation, through eye gazing, through my speech, through what I'm having them embody physically, helps them get out of their own shell. Everyone just walks around worried about themselves, and reminding them how connected you are, how powerful you are, and to come from a softer space when you're interacting with other humans. It's so easy to judge someone, just honking your horn or flipping somebody off in traffic.
Right.
You know, it's so easy to get into that space, and you have to be reminded to come back to the heart space. And I give them those tools and empower them to take that out into the world.
So I used to flip people off in traffic, but
really?
No, this was a while ago. And that's the reason why I decided to bring it up, because it hit me one day like a brick. And I think I was going through my expansion stage. I'll never forget. I had to be around 22. And somebody cut me off, but I was dealing with my ego and who I wanted to become. And somebody cut me off and I went off. And I stopped, and like my higher conscious self said, you look like a fool. like that man can't hear you. That man don't know you yelling at him.
Right.
That might have been a pregnant lady on the way to the hospital.
You don't know.
And your ego is allowing you to sit here, yell, scream, and just look dumb. And you're expending so much energy. And when you're done, you're the only person who feel bad. And it was like, from that day, I kid you not, my road rage had to just completely disappear. I don't know what happened, but it was like you said, like a light went off. I was like, road rage only hurts the person who's like yelling and screaming, because you don't know what's going on the other side of that vehicle. So it's best not to even you know what? I hope you guys are safe and you get to where you need to go. But, you know, I'm not about to waste my energy on you.
So it's interesting that you brought up the road rage situation, because road rage is when you take the small opportunity to release something that you've been carrying around that you haven't addressed. And then you decide to take something personal that someone else is doing, which, like you said, it could be a pregnant woman on the way to the hospital. It could be who knows what, but it can't be personally to you because they don't know you. Right.
So you create this facade that, oh, I'm mad at that. But realistically, you're mad at something that's tearing you up inside as you chose to ignore.
And this is a release. And people get shot over this.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Yeah. No, people die over road rage. So this is why I enjoy talking to you. Just we hit levels and start learning. So you celebrated 30 recently.
Yes.
And I was one of the lucky people invited during this socially distant 30-year bash. That's the best way I can call it. It was far from a bash. It was more like an enlightened experience to share with one another and with you. Like what we felt and how would you call this? Shout out to Marlon, by the way.
Shout out to Marlon Hall, my really good friend that hosted it. He does these salon dinners that are to awaken you in some capacity. And so we sat around this dinner table that was handcrafted by him and two of his friends. And the table was made from his grandmother's home. He's just such a great person. Everything has so much meaning. But we sat down and we talked about why you. So just pretty much, giving people their flowers while they're here, pouring into people and expressing things that you probably wouldn't hear from them while you're living.
Yeah.
No,
it was good. And I could just talk about my experience. I came in not knowing what to expect, but I know when it has anything to do with you, it was going to be different. I was like, all right, let me just go. And, luckily, I sat next to you, so my why you was to you, and you got to tell me some stuff, and you gave me some advice that is ringing in my head loud since that day.
Wow! And
it was just a powerful and impactful experience. So, one, thank you for inviting me, and I encourage people to try such a dinner. Invite your closely related people or your close friends, and just talk about why you're in my life, why I choose to work with you, why I choose to love you, and why I choose to allow you.
That it's so important. And I think, people traditionally celebrate by other things, numbing agents, partying, and not to say that stuff isn't fun, but take opportunities when you have people together that mean something to you to do something meaningful sometimes.
Absolutely. Okay, so one has to ask. I just have to ask. You're on it's safe to say, a spiritual journey, or is it? Because I don't, and that's why I'm trying to get to.
What's the other word that you want to use?
Conscious journey. I want to see, how do you differentiate? What it is that you do. Between religion, spirituality. Just what are your thoughts in that whole realm of thing? And then also just add one thing on it. What's the goal? What's the end goal of going on the journey that you're on?
So interesting. As far as the wording, I would say for other people's understanding, spiritual or conscious journey makes more sense. Having a more spiritually or focusing on my spirit as I'm moving through, but expanding my consciousness, just trying to open up my perspective, be one with a universal thought that is rooted in love more than anything else. And then as you unlock these things, there is no goal. You're in flow at that point. You're trusting and you're allowing and you're just moving through. The answers as far as the next steps come from being tuned in. You're going to get a full body yes every time you're presented with the decision. The more conscious you are, the more tapped in you are.
Okay, so what's the first step for someone who is they're in a place where they know they need to see life different, be different, experience what it is you're talking about, this bliss that it seems like you like constantly live in. And I think I'm a pretty spiritual person, but I'm not in bliss like all the time like you. Like sometimes you catch me in my ego, and that's just what it is. But so you managed to like move in this. What is there? Would you point someone to a certain direction who's just, let's just talk about a person who's just completely clueless to themselves?
Meditation. People who are really clueless to themselves are usually uncomfortable with themselves. So sitting in silence alone is weird, or they can't do it for long.
Yeah.
You have to start to feel yourself, like even taking deep breaths. A lot of people don't acknowledge that they're breathing throughout the day. It's just happening.
No,
and
that's
you're
funny.
Watching TV, you're talking, you're doing everything, but to mindfully sit down and think about the process of your breathing.
Right.
Come to a space of gratitude, scan from the top of your head all the way down and find out where there's any tension or energy sitting there and why do you feel that way? Just exploring yourself.
No, I noticed you had us take a deep breath right before we engaged in this conversation, which it always helps. Mm-hmm. Why are people afraid to sit? Why do you think people are afraid to sit with themselves and live with themselves?
Because it's a lot. If you haven't been doing that, it's a lot of shit in there. And it's like, do I really want to do all this work? When you begin your whatever journey you want to call it, it's like opening up a closet full of stuff. It's just easier to close the closet and walk away. Rather than thinking about completely, cleaning the closet out in one day, just take one thing out, close the closet and look at it. It can get really uncomfortable. There's so many things that we do to avoid what's really going on. But once you do it, it's so much better. Yeah.
It reminds me of when I was in college. I think this is when I started having my spiritual awakening. I think also, if you're Christian, I think this is my opinion. Everybody don't agree with this. If you're Christian, I think it's almost the same of when you start to say you're getting saved, or like you start to see the light or see things in a more human way, or I can't think of how enlightenment, I think is what the Buddhists call it. So, I think our religions has some parallel in them. I started to see my actions, how like ego driven I was, how sometimes I used to be like, I needed to be in control of situations all the time. And so that's in college is when I started realizing like, oh, okay, it's time to, I have to do this work so that I can become a greater human, you know what I mean? And not like by my own standards of great, but like I could do more, in great capacity. And it was hard. Like you said, it was very hard because you had to accept and admit to yourself that you've been doing some things wrong, or you've just been unaware. And so you've created these patterns, this identity, these habits, this personality based off of just like false information or very loose foundation. And so now to rebuild your foundation, and you're almost into adulthood, or you are into adulthood, it's like you said, it's scary. You feel naked, it's like, oh man, I got to go out into the world and rebuild my personality and my character on these new ideals that I've set for myself, which love is one of my, freedom and love are my like two ideals. I'm all about working towards freedom, not just for myself, for other people, but using the power of love, which is the strongest energy. But before then, it was just about, power and respect, or,
Right.
stuff like that. So no, yeah, it's not easy unpacking those things, but it's much needed work that has to be done. And I think we will all have a better place to live in if we all did that
We would
work.
have a way better place to live in. And something that you said, feeling like you have to restart and you're already grown, you have to realize that these timing standards are illusions. People don't want to start over at 30 or 35 or start the work. It's like no matter where you are age-wise, according to society, this is an opportunity that you get to expand in this way before you leave this place. So people it's an opportunity to be gentle with yourself, to love yourself, to be forgiving. It's not that you were doing wrong or bad before, you just were unconscious.
What do you attribute to having so many people be unaware? Like, what is the thing? Why are most people unaware right now? Or do you even have an idea? I'm not saying you have all the answers.
That's a great question. I'm going to reference a book. It is called Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. And he basically explains that the purpose of life is for consciousness to discover itself. So the evolution of humans being here, the rebirth and the reincarnation and just life coming back on earth over and over again, it moves towards more consciousness, more knowing of self over time. And if you look back just through the history of America, that has happened. We've evolved a long way.
Yeah.
Not long enough, but a long way from where we were. The things that we know about American history, I could not imagine that being reality today. So yeah, I think that's why we're here.
Okay. So what are you hoping to, in the next, let's just say 10, 15 years, manifest? Or do you even look that far out, or is it a day by day thing? Or, what are you hoping to with your career? I don't know if you can, career as a yoga instructor, coach, do you have like goals set, or is it like, as long as I'm in this every day, then I'm doing what I need to do?
As long as I am at peace with myself and that I'm living in alignment and that I'm living honestly and truthfully, whatever, I'm attracting at that point will be what it needs to be, if that makes sense. Like my hard goals of like, okay, in 10 years, I'm going to have this specific house and this kind of car. The tangible third dimensional goals have changed for me. And it's like the more I'm tapped into the present moment and just attracting and staying in alignment, things just come. So I don't even have to think about it. And I don't need it. That's the difference now too.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No, yeah. So I kind of, what I took from that is, as long as you're in flow, I'm guessing like the law of attraction will bring to you what is.
Mm-hmm. But like my goals for 10 to 15 years, I've lived long enough now that when you say that you want to be somewhere, you want life to look a certain way in 15 years, there's so many things that's going to change about you. You might not even want that in 5 years.
Right.
So it's like, as long as I'm, healthy, honest, at peace, and still connected to myself, that's what the goal is.
That sounds like, how do I say it? Just like a great way and philosophy to embody and not have to, because it's so much stress and anxiety around what we hope to happen.
Yes.
Or
and things.
Yeah. And so that subscribing to that allows you to just like take every and each day by like what is happening today
and be grateful.
Right. No, that's good. Okay. So, so here we go. I'm curious, what's the greatest piece of advice that you've ever received? If you can just take it in, just like, what's the greatest piece of advice that you've received on your journey?
My mentor, Koya, in so many words, let me know that I decide how this looks. And, you know, you're told when you're a kid, you know, anything you want to do, you can be. If you put all efforts into it, you work hard, whatever. But the way that she said it and what she meant by it and looking at her life example hit different. And it just, so we were talking about just melting away these have to do's. Like if you think about the order of operations, like people feeling like for me to be this thing professionally, I have to go to college and get this degree. I have to have interned here. I have to have worked here for this amount of time. You know, as an entrepreneur, I've realized that I decide my offering, I shape my business, I set my price, and I move how I want to. And that level of freedom, just that advice and seeing it broke me open to something else. I've now worked in a yoga studio.
But yeah, you're like teaching classes all over. That's
right. In other people's mind, they have that block and barrier of I need to be teaching 10 years in studio before I can give myself permission to show up this way or offer this. So yeah, that's probably the greatest advice that I've gotten on my path.
That's amazing. You know, it's something to be said, and I talk about purpose a lot. When you're in your purpose, your road usually looks unconventional.
Also, yes.
Like you can't line your journey up with somebody else's who's just doing it for the money or just doing it because, you know, this is a good pastime for them. Mm-hmm. When you're in your purpose, you don't know what to expect. You just know you should be doing it, right? And doing it to the best of your ability to serve other people. And so, no, kudos to you. All right. I think we at that time where we get ready to do rapid fire.
Let's do it.
Oh, man.
I'm kind of scared.
All right. I'm just throwing out words.
Okay.
Right. And you just say whatever comes to your mind.
Am I saying one word or anything? A sentence?
You know what? Most times it's one word.
Okay.
I will allow for you 3 words at best. I'll allow 3 words. All right. Let's go with, first off, in the spirit of this interview.
Wait.
Whoa. Whoa.
Just say the first thing that comes to mind.
Yep.
All right. Oh, God.
Consciousness.
Necessary.
Greenery.
Life.
Tea.
Hot.
Okay. Man, I'm the one messing up rapid fire today. Like I can't even think of anything. We're so mellow right now. I can't even like explain it to you. Like we're super mellow. Like the sage, the tea, everything. I'm in her vibe right now. So, you know, it is what it is. Okay. So the people want to know, what are you listening to? What are you watching? Podcast. Oh, we didn't even talk about your podcast. You have your own podcast.
I do.
Yeah. What's the name of it?
It is Ascend with Yogi Jazz. It is a podcast dedicated to the expansion of your consciousness. So people who are on their spiritual journey or they're just interested in certain topics, new perspective, it goes deep. It challenges you. It gives you resources. And there's also guided meditations on there.
I'm so happy I remembered to bring that up. You didn't even tell me. Yeah, no, definitely check out her podcast. It's like, and I think sometimes I catch the episodes on Instagram. I love that you post them on Instagram in your stories. And I'm just like, you know, normally you just scroll through stories and then you get to your story and you just got to stop. It's like, man, I need to log off and like work on my life. Yeah. So, yeah. What are you watching? What are you reading? What do you recommend to people? It doesn't have to be, you know, super spiritual or, you know, motivational or anything, but just what are you taking in?
One thing that I watch right now is Insecure, Issa Rae. That is one of my favorite shows. One of my favorite women.
Issa Rae.
Love Issa Rae. I just finished Dead to Me on Netflix, which is really good. Reading, I just bought a book today called The History of White People by Neil Painter.
Interesting.
Yeah, so the times that we're in right now has gotten me so curious to get back into academics and look through history that is less biased, the history that's presented to us in school. So pretty much the book goes into how the white race was created, and just their overall, what has to happen for them for this structure to work.
Right.
And just unpacking where they come from, the Neanderthal genetics that we do not have, which is from prehistoric humans that came from a certain type of monkey. And that monkey conquests and has an aggressive nature. So aggressively taking and exploring the world is a part of their nature.
Wow.
Yeah. So it talks about that. It talks about, their relocation from different places of the world, and then looking at American history through the lens of looking at white people's part in it versus the experience of Black people, which on my Instagram, I was just posting a lot of white people. My friends and people that don't know me are coming to me asking me, how can I be a better white person? What can I do? And it's like, you need to understand yourself, because white people have never been addressed in school. It's just the default. And then we look at everybody else.
Man, that's so true.
So it's really interesting to look at it and to share this information with people. So I'm super excited about that.
Oh, that's a good book. What was the name of that book again?
The History of White People
Awesome.
by Nell Painter.
All right. And when you're not listening to your own podcast or doing your own podcast, are there any podcasts out there that you would recommend?
One of my homegirls, she has a podcast called Colored Couch Conversations, and it's Black women talking about different taboo things in a conscious way. But music-wise, I'm listening to Lucky Day. I'm listening to Sir. I'm listening to Nipsey. I'm listening to D-Smoke. I'm listening to, let me give you one more. Sabrina Claudio, Janae, all of those type of vibey people.
All right. So before we get out of here, you've already given so much, so sorry to put you on the spot for more, but is there any parting advice that you have for people who are listening, people who might want to start this journey of self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-growth?
I want to give people permission to be comfortable and happy and to take up space. Let the world adapt to you rather than you adapting to the world. Like, everybody should give themselves permission to have this human experience in full. As we know, as far as we know, we're only going to be here once, to our knowledge,
Right.
Do it. Be here.
Be aware, be present.
Be present, explore, feel good, tell the truth, express.
Live.
Yeah, live.
It's so simple, but it's so easy.
It can be so hard.
Yeah, you just kind of get over. How do people follow you?
Instagram, Yogi Jaz Porter, YOGIJAZPORTER. That's on all platforms. And my email address is yogijazporter@gmail.com. Website is the same as well.
Yo, Jaz, I have to say thank you for hitting us with your heavy vibes of peace, love, and growth and awareness. Until next time, I hope to have you back again. I really appreciate it.
Anytime.
All right, this has been episode 3 of the Transformation Chamber. I'll see you guys next time.
Peace.
Thanks again for tuning in to the Transformation Chamber. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, and share. Also, check us out on YouTube. To find out more about Yoga Entreprenuer Jaz Porter, follow her at Yogi Jaz Porter or visit her website at yogijazporter.com. To find out more about the Transformation Chamber, follow me at Joshua T. Dada or visit my website at joshuatdada.com. Until next time, peace.